I'm a spirit speaking, truth seeking, heart reaching, knowledge leaking, seeds sowing, harvest reaping, man of neither means. I have yet to leave, I'm still breathing. To quit, I have no reason. I mean, I'm asleep, but I be trying to live my dreams. I cannot even act if it's all easy. Either you gon' do it or you don't really. It ain't no in between. Baby, you can ask the sun, it's an everyday theme. Consistency in your routine is how you bring reality. Working like a slave, that's how I made this masterpiece. Living like a god, I lay at night, I rest in peace. They remember me, but I am not Haram or beef.
Man, that intro fire. Kim, man, that intro fire, man. I really could do that intro up with that intro, man. Working like a, that's how I made this masterpiece. Living like a god, I lay at night, I rest in peace. Yeah, I know we're a little behind schedule today. My brother's in town, man, so we're gonna have a good day today. But peace, 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 love, and light to everyone out here, all true life seekers that jump in just to learn a little something today, as we always do at the BBT. We're a group of brothers. We're not under no religious dogma. We're under the triple rose. We have a clear understanding of all three religious rights. And we are a think tank of wisdom. So if you identify more or whatever you think you may be, this is a safe place. We're here to show you who we are, and you have that choice to make a sound decision. What we're not going to do is tolerate trolls or no adults on here playing. We don't play that. We don't play no fake law. We're not here playing no fake G.I. Joe. We're real people in real life. And so we're here to explain things to our brothers and sisters, to give you a clear understanding where you can make a clear choice on what real law is, how to make a sound decision, and ask people questions. So before I even get into this, we will do our worship and prayer.
Allah, Father of the universe, Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is our protector, our God, and our salvation. By night, by day, the holy prophet, Drew Ali, our man Hashem, no other peace. Eye to eye, Islamism. Peace, 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 peace.
Peace, 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 peace. All true light seekers, those that's here to learn. And like I said, if you like the teachings, don't hesitate to give a small donation to our temple and school. We'll give you literature. We'll give you shots out. Y'all can join us collectively, and you can join me on a lot of my private teachings that I don't teach on social media, and a lot of the information that I don't share on social media that I share with my private muftis and my private study group. You will be able to have access to that and use it in real life. Because everything I don't discuss on social media, what I'm doing is casting my net out per se, to bring brothers and sisters private, to show people what we can do in the midst of all this calamity, to show what a real God, men, brothers, sisters, children can put a couple of dollars together with the right word, the right vision, and do something magnanimous. So before we get into this teaching, I always have to give a little biblical understanding. But tomorrow, which is Sunday, we're going to have an amazing Sunday school, because I'm going to illuminate a lot of biblical context. But I just want to give this text right here, and it's 1 Corinthians 13, verse 1 and 3. And this is what it says. Even if you do marvelous things, like speaking in tongues, prophesy, or healing in the name of the Lord, means nothing if you do it without love. I don't care if you're some black Hebrew Israelite. I don't care if you're some more with fez on, some Masons, whatever. If you ain't doing it without love, it's all void. You know, saying other people is this and other people are devil. No, but you're a devil. And if your understanding and your ideology is based on hate, that scripture is about you. And those type of people hate people for things that they don't have control over, like where they born, how they speak, or the color of their skin. See, we don't play that here. I do the works of my Father. So when these people become with this fake biblical text, man, we can dance all around the fugazi. We can dance all around the fugaziness. Remember, I'm gonna throw another alley-oop before we get into the teachings. Remember, when the people that don't understand biblical scripture, it's a word called Maseroth in the biblical scripture. That road, excuse me, I said that road because it's taking you on the road. But that word is constellations, is zodiac. Read Job 38 and 32, and read 2 Kings 23 and 5. And I'm gonna jump more in this tomorrow and Sunday school. So I can show you that you're reading the wrong thing and the map and the guide is off. And I can use the biblical scriptures to break every piece of science down. I don't care what piece of science is, I can use the Bible for every piece of science. Because when I talk about our Moore's Quran in chapter 5, the workman tools, I can break all our workman tools down in the Bible. It's not hard. It's very simple. And every God man should be able to do that. So with that being said, I want to talk about a specific topic today, since today is adapt class and civics class, because there's too many charlatans out here playing, telling you that you need a status correction and do all this fugazi stuff. The Moorish Science Temple of America have a proclamation declaration. All my muftis have the state booklet, how the temple is set up, to get you in the right perspective. It's only one Moorish Science Temple. It's only one prophet. Now, is it fascist groups? Yes. So if these people saying they Moorish Science Temple of America, they should be honest. And a lot of stuff is not. It's a lot of people telling you that they can nationalize you or denationalize you. And the only thing a brother can make you is a Freemason. So when we talk about civics and law here at the BBT, we understand the 13th, the 14th, and the 15th Amendment. I don't have time to break it all down right now, but you should know this. You should know these things. You should know what Reconstruction amendments consist of. You should know, when I talk about let's make us a citizen, you should know the true fifth components of a natural person. When I say Negro, blacks, and color, and African Americans, because it was illegal to be a Negro, color, or African American since the 1800s, you only have 3/5. And the 2/5 was taken from you from so-called slavery. You need your spirit, which is your indestructible God essence and man. You need your soul, which are the actions of the mind's power, which is thinking, reasoning, willing, and understanding. You need your body, flesh, human vehicle made of the earth, often indigenous to what? The land of birth. Just like when you're dealing with grapes, what's the appellation? Do you know your appellation? Nationality, the descendant birth attachment through an especial nation or tribe, free national name and lineage, identity. You annex your El Bey. Your last name is not no slave name. Your last name is your coat of arms, AKA your family crest. You annex your El Bey to the name that your mama gave your ugly self when you was a baby. Excuse my candor. I just want to use some pun. It's that simple. Remember your nationality and your creed. Those two were the two main fifths extracted from the so-called African nationals or slaves per se. When George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and many other, I don't call them European because we can be European. I call them, let's use proper name. Let's say Albion or Troglodyte, Freemasons, slave owners who signed the Constitution of the United States. Also wrote in their chattel of 3/5 of a person. And the Constitution legalized racism and apartheid in the interior fabric of the new American culture. So I just wanted to give you that highlight. I'm not going to break everything down. I told you, a person of the bar, they'll lie to you. When they say, well, in persons, it made us this. No, it didn't. It's just changed ownership. Think about it. It just changed ownership of who owns you. You have to understand this science. When we talk about the 14th Amendment, the Dred Scott Law, you know, when I ask people, do they know the Declaration of Human Rights, Article 15, they say no. When I ask them, do they know the House Joint Resolution 75, they say no. When I ask them, do you know the religious rights of the indigenous people, they say no. When I ask them, do you know the true history and science of the SF 181 form, they're like, what is that? So we have a problem. We have a problem, you know? And so as we talk about the 15th Amendment and all those things, which we're not gonna stay and talk too much about, I'm just setting the precedent. And now when you get to these Moors on the internet and they allowing all these charlatans to get you caught up as a sovereign citizen, which is an oxymoron, getting you caught up in this Roger Elvick, this paradigm, this European or Albion militia stuff, I want to overthrow the government. That is not more science. This is what I'm here to tell brothers and sisters. That is not more science. It's whatever them people saying it is. It's whatever that they came up with, but that's not more science. So I'm just gonna dance around what law of succession consists of, especially the Moors that's telling you, and these people on the internet telling you to file this and file that. And I'm like, dude, you off. There's no such thing as a status correction. What status are you correcting? They made mistakes, so you correct a mistake. So you're navigating totally off again. So when I talk about Tim or less, has enjoyed a decade of formal independence. The country's democratic institutions have grown during the period, but as a thoughtful Timsor are quick to point out, much remains to be done. So when we talk about these things, and when I talk about how certain systems are set up, when I use names and things in law, you have to know this stuff. You have to have a clear understanding what I'm talking about so you don't get caught up in certain things. So I'm just going to hit a couple bullets, like to introduce terms common to the law or succession of law, to identify the typical timeline of a proper succession, to introduce the primary rights and obligations of those who receive an inheritance. When they say, oh, the Moors got this, and like it's some trust fund at the end of the rainbow. The 1099 is no trust fund at the end of the rainbow. That's a religious affidavit, how the temple was set up. To understand how to administer a succession when the deceased does not leave a will behind. To understand what portion of an inheritance must go to close relatives. To develop an introductory appreciation, listen to this, of a will and its common components. But how I correct things, you don't do a will. So when I do these things and when people be talking things, they have to show you everything, how to correct everything, because will is litigation. So we talk about these lawfully in civics, but you can have a good understanding. I'll break everything down, molecule to molecule, so you can see. And when I talk about succession of law, you have to know what that is. It deals with how to distribute a deceased individual's property. So if Prophet Noble Ali set up the temple, who are the beneficiaries? Now, what is you supposed to get? It ain't nothing to get. It ain't no gold. It ain't nothing this, nothing there. So what these paper terrorists doing, you messed up. And then they're not part of the Moorish Science Temple of America. So you false identifying everything. Why? Because you're not part of the Moorish Science Temple of America. And you're not part of a sheikh that's from the temple that created his own school that's going to teach you the right way. That's why the majority of the people are off. A proper succession must determine which individuals or groups are the appropriate heirs and summon them to the succession. Once the succession is arranged, all heirs must decide how to best distribute the inheritance and must manage the inheritance appropriately according to what? Law. If the deceased does not leave a will or a trust per se, the civil code lists procedures for identifying who received the inheritance according to the principles of legitimate succession. So what are these Moors talking about? Well, Noble Ali left the trust fund, but you ain't part of the Moorish Scientific. You ain't got nothing. It's fugazi. Oh, we can file this like fugazi, paper terrorists. Even if the deceased leaves a will behind, the law guarantees that a certain portion of the inheritance will go to close family members according to the principles of compulsory succession. So when these Moors talk about they expatriating for this de facto government, I told you the other day, you stateless. You are a domestic terrorist, foreign and abroad. This is what they doing to y'all. And people don't understand what I'm saying because they're not Moorish Science Temple of America. They're not going to tell you the truth. You expatriate from this de facto government, you will be stateless. You will be a domestic terrorist right here, foreign and abroad. And you're going to be locked up just like with the rest of them. A testamentary will, listen to this, is the primary means of communicating the deceased's wishes after death, but the will is still limited by law in its construction and demands. So if that's the case, how can we override that? The Prophet did it. I teach it. The religious rights and the religious laws trump all this stuff. You have to know what you're doing the right way if you're a part of something. That's what I'm telling you. And people is sending you back where? Slavery, with the fake law stuff. We teach the city, no, you're not. So I'll give you a little titular introduction of law of succession, and we out of here. So to define important terms and explain the purpose of succession laws, all of us own possessions, right? These possessions may include expensive items like automobile, house, basic goods such as clothes, appliances, paper you are now reading, books, whatever. Individuals can also own more complex goods as well, such as debt, the right to government benefits, or a trust. You heard that. The law of succession creates a legal framework of deciding who owns an individual possessions. I hope y'all listening, rights and obligations in the unfortunate event that the person becomes seriously incapacitated or dies. So if you say you Noble Ali left this and all this, and you ain't part of the Moorish Science Temple of America, what the hell you think you finna get? Nothing, and it ain't nothing to get. It ain't nothing. It ain't no gold. It ain't no building. It ain't nothing. So what do you think you finna get when you on the internet? This is our land. What you finna get? Oh, wait, you want some welfare. You want some Section 8. That's what you want. So the government, your daddy. You don't want to be pulled up by your bootstraps. You want to file some fake paperwork. And this paper will provide a very basic introduction to these important laws. The terms, the concepts, the rules discussed in this dissertation. It can be found in the book of the Civil Code of Timor-Leste. I'll be breaking this stuff down. We lecture this in civics class and political science class. You can't. The truth is the truth, and the truth has no size. You know? And so when you talk about this, I'll give like the first part, I'll address the typical timeline of a succession and the rights and the responsibilities, people who receive an inheritance. And the second title, we'll discuss 3 types of successions recognized under this law. And this is what you have to know. So when these charlatans on the internet coming with this spaghetti stuff, you can be like, man, gone. Legitimate succession, compulsory succession, and testamentary succession. So where succession law is ambiguous, this means that the law may not have a clear answer about how a situation should turn out. And like the other dissertations I've done on this, I present hypothetical scenarios. I ask you questions, and then I answer them to help you improve your understanding of the topic. That's what I'll be telling people. And then I encourage you to also study the civil codes carefully. And then if you want more information, I can give you more information on succession law. Article 1888 of the Civil Code introduces the definition of succession. The Civil Code of these discussions. Article 1888, the concept. Succession is defined as the entitlement by one or more persons to the legal patrimonial relationships of a deceased person and the consent restitution of the assets that used to belong to that person. I hope you know it. I hope you're listening to what I'm saying. When these Moors saying this and that, dude, they don't know. They're not telling you the truth. Everything else is fugazi. These people that talking about they some president of Morocco in some makeshift basement with chalkboards, man, grown people wasting their time. I told y'all where that stuff come from. Nobody over here is no president of no Morocco. Who made these people president of Morocco over here in the United States of America in some makeshift basement? And these people don't even have dual citizenship to nowhere. If anything happened, they're going to get locked up right here. And they're going to get a court-appointed attorney like they did when they was out here in Arizona and got themselves locked up. I know this for a fact. And Article 1888 uses complicated legal language in its definitions. When I tell people, I said, you can't just make it up as you go. Well, I think it means this. It don't mean that in law. Civic law, criminal law, law and policy, things mean different. The same word can mean a plethora of different things, depending on the facet of law you in. If you don't know that, you the one playing the game, and you the one being abused, and you playing all your people, because you out here a rogue mechanic, and you're not a master mechanic, but you dress like me, like you a master mechanic, and you not. You got everything off Amazon. And another simpler way to understand succession is the right a person or people have to receive a deceased person's assets, also called what? The estate. So if you ain't a part of no estate, you ain't part of the so-called vast estate, you ain't part of the Moorish Temple of America, what are you talking about? And if anybody part of Moorish Temple of America, you lying. And based on the legal relationship between the people. For example, a child with no other siblings receiving the rights to own his parents' farm, you know, after his father passes away. As you learn about the law of succession, you will see many difficult legal terms. And when you jump in there, it's going to be stuff in there I know you don't know. But you're going to get up here and you're going to say, well, I know. I know you don't. You don't understand nothing that I'm saying. And you got to refer to the glossary. Just like when people be reading, I say, have you used the lexicon? They be like, what you mean? I said, so you ain't used the lexicon to see what these words, you got an etymology dictionary? No. So you don't know what these words really mean and the origin, really, how to use them in the context, do you? No, exactly. Exactly how things are used. The timeline of a typical inheritance assignment. You know, we explain the timelines of inheritance to identify the requirements necessary for an individual to be a successor. It's requirements for these people to say, oh, they some vast estate. What vast estate? To discuss issues of inheritance, acceptance, repudiation, petitions. That's why you don't want to get a will, because your family member or your brother can petition the court to get something that they don't deserve, or vice versa. How typical inheritance proceedings happen. People don't even know how these inheritance happen. They're trying to tell you about something on TikTok or on a podcast, and it's all payola. Identify the issues and questions that must be addressed at each stage of this process. It's important to understand in your hippocampus that every inheritance presents unique questions and challenges. Therefore, there is no single blueprint for accomplishing an appropriate inheritance assignment. It's how that temple set up. And the state booklet show you how the prophet set the temple up. It's done the way the BBT is set up a certain way. That's why if anything happened to me, all my muftis are the beneficiaries in it. Why? Because it's already on paper. They part of it. You can't say you're going to get some a part of something and you ain't a part of it. That's fraud. That's identity theft. I'm telling you. And right now what's going to happen, they're going to use the bylaw, the Declaration and Proclamation. They're going to use that 1099 that you can get from the county clerk recorder of deeds. And all these Negroes that have been on the internet talk about they ain't Americans, they some foreign nationals. You go into the FEMA camp. I'm telling you, watch. Every one of y'all on the internet, because they got the internet task force. I've been telling people they're going to be knocking on y'all doors, pulling you out because the laws done changed. Think it's a joke. Think they just coming to shift other people up. They come to get your stupid up because you said you ain't American. You said you a foreign national. You done expatriated from this so-called de facto government. You done let somebody renounce your stateship. You a fool, and you deserve everything that happened to you. And you know who I'm talking about. You know, it's a whole bunch of y'all out here playing the game. And I feel sorry for y'all. And this is a warning. I've been telling people this for years. I've been telling y'all this, you know? And so when we talk about these things, when we talk about like the early stages of opening and summoning, you know, a succession technology opens, AK begins at the exact moment of that person's death, at the location of his or her last resident. That individual is the deceased individual whose assets are being considered for inheritance. So now you got to see, do they got some assets? We talk about some vast estate. We talk about we inherited this. It ain't nothing in there. So when more talking about they need to set up a trust. What are you putting in your trust? Some tennis shoes? You got a whole bunch of tennis shoes in a trust. Talk about you need to make a trust. You don't have nothing. The Moorish Science Temple don't have nothing. The Negroes squandered everything. You think a group of, just imagine if the prophet was alive and it was millions of dollars in the temple, and when he died, you think the millions of dollars gonna be there? No, all that money gonna be gone. So it ain't nothing but what's left, buildings. That's raggedy. Think about what I'm saying. Don't let these people play with you with these fake seals that they done got from Office Max or Staples. That individual decides what will happen to his or her assets when they die. And even if that individual does not actually write any instructions down, that individual can also be called the what? Deceased. Like if Leopold, per se, his name, lived in Texas his whole life, but passed away while taking a vacation, say in Dubai, his succession will still happen in where he's from. And one of the succession is open, the heirs, it's like when these more data heirs of the temple, no you ain't. So the heirs of the first order of succession must be gathered. The order of succession is described in more detail. I'll do that later. But now you got to understand that successors are people who can receive the assets that formerly belong to a deceased individual. This is not hard. I hope y'all catching what I'm saying. A heir is a type of successor, and a heir can receive all of the deceased person's assets or a percentage of the assets if there is more than one heir. And heirs are almost always children or other close relatives, like if you are part of a religious society or organization or brotherhood. Heirs cannot be identified until the time of the author's or that individual's death. And before that point, they are merely what? Heir apparent. You get it? This means that the person could become an heir if he lives longer than that individual. And if the first order heirs do not want the succession or are unable to legally accept it, the law requires the second order of heirs receive the inheritance. And if they do not want the succession or are able to legally accept it, third order heirs receive the inheritance, and so on and so forth. And they say if that individual's children now live in a different area and have no interest in settling his estate, what happens? Then the law will move onto other heirs, such as parents or siblings. I hope y'all following me. This is too easy. You catching all these liars too fast. This is what this doing. I hope y'all listening to me. Oh, you can do this. Oh, or follow this. I hope you listening. I'm taking you to you in civics class. This ain't gonna take long because I'm almost done. I'm only giving you a crash course. Article 1895, occasion and location. Listen, the succession opens at the moment of death of our author, that individual, and at the location of his or her last domicile. You know what domicile means. That's what the Moors say, well, I'm my domicile. That's the last place your goofy butt stayed. That ain't nothing high science, so shut up. Just like if you were running for mayor and you live somewhere else, like I live in Arizona. If I want to run for the mayor in the city of Flint, I have to domicile in that area for a certain amount of time. My residence got to be there for a certain amount of time a year to go and run for that political office where I domicile the most. And if the heirs of the first order do not wish or are unable to accept it, the subsequent ones shall be summoned, and so forth. You know, so determining the successor's capacity. Listen to this. Determining a potential successor's capacity means to find out whether the person can legally be a successor. Any person born or conceived prior to that person's death can be successor. This also includes newborns, not yet conceived, who are children of a specific person who is alive at the time the succession is open. When you look up Civil Code 1897, this provision means that unborn children can serve as successor as long as one of their parents is alive at the time of that individual's death. Article 1897 also permits corporations to be successors. I hope you're catching what I'm saying. Though all legal persons can serve as successors, there are some situations where a person is considered not to have the capacity to fulfill this role. Article 1898-1902 also lists situations that can disqualify a person from being a successor. So you got to understand and review these articles when determining capacity. And some examples that disqualify individuals: if a person is convicted as the perpetrator or accomplice of murder against that individual or a close member of that individual's family. If the person deceitfully forced that individual to change his or her trust or will per se, and if that person inappropriately tampered with that individual's trust or will. And if any of the list actions are found to be true, then that individual is considered unworthy of succession. I hope y'all follow me. The Civil Code, like Article 1901, effects of unworthiness. Once unworthiness is declared, the restitution of the succession to the person unworthy of inheriting is deemed non-existent, and he or she shall be considered as a bad faith possessor of the respective assets. So determining whether a right of representation exists. Listen clearly. When identifying which heir should be present when the succession opens, the law also considers the descendants of the heirs that cannot accept the inheritance, usually because of death. Like, imagine that an elderly widow dies, but is survived by 3 children. This means that she has 3 children still alive after her death. And during that lady's lifetime, she actually gave birth to 4 children. The eldest, say his name is Vincent. And then he died many years prior to that widow's death. And even though Vincent died many years ago, if he has any children, listen clearly, they would hold a right of representation. That's why I tell people don't get no will, but that's a whole nother teaching. This means that Vincent's children have the right to Vincent's share of the widow's assets after her death, because Vincent has 3 siblings still alive. This share will equal 1/4 of the widow's assets. Are y'all catching me? I hope y'all follow me. We putting the cap on these lying Moors to telling you a paper trail. That's on the podcast and saying you could do this, and I did it. Precedent in law case, doc number, Free Information Act. Them Negroes ain't did nothing but got arrested for traffic law and got a straitjacket put on them and took some medicine. And then they come out, tell you a whole bunch of Roger Elvick, sovereign citizen, paper terrorist stuff on podcasts with fictitious names. Everyone that needs to be present is identified and their capacity has been checked. Each person must accept or refute or, have their disagreement, the inheritance or agree. Typically, people are happy to accept the inheritance. So we will explain, and I'll explain acceptance. Acceptance is the means of perfecting ownership over the inherited assets, irrespective of their material seizure. Civil Code Article 1914. What that means is that the act of acceptance is what determines whether the person has a right to the inheritance. Therefore, acceptance is what matters in the law, not actually physically possessing the assets. And a person can most easily express acceptance of the inheritance by writing. And the law also recognizes some forms of tactic accepted. So acceptance must occur within a certain time, 10 years of the successor learning of the inheritance. And once the acceptance is made, it is irrevocable. Like an irrevocable trust. You got revocable trust too. You got down there 16 trusts. I teach people this. I don't tell you what to do. I teach it, and I tell you, and you do what's best for you. I give you all the information as a teacher teaches, because I've been through the way. Repudiation. The law does not force an individual to accept an inheritance. It's possible that an inheritance could be a burden to have. Or the person, like if you accepted a bar or a club and the person say, yeah, it might make money, but I don't want to have that burden of running the club and all this and all that. Some people don't want that. Or the person entitled to inherit sees another successor needs. Say, well, no, I don't need this house. I got a house. Me and my wife or me and my husband, we got a big house and I don't need this house. I need to let some of my nephews inherit this for the generations can have a place to stay. So this can be a family house for generations can raise their kids. We need to keep this in the family and it need to be under a certain type of trust. This is what I teach for you don't lose your assets like your home. I teach this. It's a way to do things the right way. I tell people don't get no mortgage. It ain't no reason to do this. It's another way to do things. We done got Americanized, but every person is given the opportunity to discuss or agree, but only in full. This means that that individual, that successor, cannot argue certain parts of the general inheritance while simultaneously accepting other parts. But what I'm saying is, in full requirement does not apply to discrete and separable legacies. Legacy. Now, a legacy is a gift of a specific thing or amount of money to another person called it's like a legat or a legat. For example, an individual may accept one legacy or gift and then, argue another legacy or discuss one. And if the individual does not do discuss that or, have a discussion of that inheritance in full, the law treats the individual as if he or she was never summoned. Think about what I'm saying. And moves on to the next rightful heir or that other individual, that legate. This is done until all of the deceased assets are accounted for, like acceptance, irrevocable, repudiation. That's why I tell you, don't get a will. You get a certain type of trust. Because if you don't get this type of trust, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, you're going to let these mortgages get you caught up, and they're not going to break this down. This is very important if these people talk about they dealing with civics, and they get you caught up as a paper terrorist. So I just wanted to give you all that, man. That's a little tittle, because I can go more, but I just wanted to give a small tittle. And I got so many questions. Like, I had some questions when I was teaching about this. This was a question that was given to me. Suppose Tommy owns a small farm just outside of Sudan. Unfortunately, Tommy has a death or an accident and passed away. He does not leave behind a will, but he's survived by 2 sons, right? At first, neither son shows any interest in accepting the land that they dad owned, nor do they subsequent orders of heirs come forth to accept the property. For a few years, Jose or that individual occasionally sends an employee of his to check up on the land. 9 years later, somebody else changed his mind, wanted the brother to accept the land. He does so through a formal acceptance in front of a notary public and inform that individual's children. 2 years later, after he claimed the land and they turned the land into a very wealthy farm, now that individual demands a share of the land, claiming he accepted the property by sending an employee to check on the land several years ago. But is he correct? Should he own half of the farm? Now, this is when people are like, yes, he should. I don't care how nobody feels. We dealing with what? Law, and law governs all events. If you don't know law, you can't arbitrarily explain things how you feel. No one cares, because I don't. You know? Imagine that Anna passed away during her life. She had 3 children, Sophia, Henrietta, Lucy, all 3 children. Also had 3 kids of their own, making 9 grandchildren total. But unfortunately, Sophia passed away a few years before Anna's death. If Anna leaves her entire estate to her rightful heirs, what portion do the following receive? Sophia's children, Henriette, Lucia, and Henriette and Lucia's children. What principle is used to determine Sophia's children portion of the assets? So, probably not. The law does not recognize managerial acts, like occasionally sending an employee to check on the land, as acceptance. Therefore, in this situation, let's say the individual name is Jose. He might be able to use his action to help demonstrate tacit acceptance. Tacit acceptance. You heard what I just said? But it's probably not enough on his own. Jose also did not challenge the other individual, Antonio's use of the land, until after 10 years he passed, after it became prosperous. I hope you all follow me. And therefore, the next scenario, which I close, Sophia's children would each receive 1/9 of Anne's estate. So say if it's a lot of money and then you got all these kids that pop up and then y'all don't want to agree to nothing, the attorneys are going to get paid. The attorneys are going to eat up a big chunk, down there 66%, maybe more, depending on if you don't know nothing. And then if you got 5, 6, 7, 10 siblings, y'all going to split all that money that y'all could have had and y'all going to get $500 a piece. And y'all could have had thousands. I hope y'all listen to me. This is equal to 1/3 of 1/3. This is equal to 1/3 of 1/3 of Anne's estate. This is because these children are the rightful heirs of Sophia's percentage, which is 1/3 of the assets, because there are 3 siblings total. Henrietta, Lucy, Sophia would each receive 1/3. Henrietta and Lucia do not directly receive any assets because Henrietta and Lucia, they still alive. See? Finally, the principle used to determine Sophia's children's portion is the right of what? Representation. So I'm gonna stop right there, because if you operating with this poor science on the internet and you watching these podcasts with these people saying you can file this and you can file that, that's paper terrorists. That's Roger Elvick's sovereign citizen movement, and Bobby Hemmett told us about this years ago. You cannot expatriate from this de facto government. I'm an American, proud to be an American. When you do that, you are a domestic terrorist, foreign and abroad. I hope y'all ears are open, and I gave you a little tittle of law succession, AKA succession of law. You should start, light bulbs should start flickering. Light bulbs should start flickering. Because if I'm giving you something that you never heard of, I can't give it to you all. Light bulbs should start flickering. I'm giving you a piece, and you can start asking questions, and you can start looking at things, and you can start correcting yourself of the mistake that you made. Because a lot of individuals has made mistakes, and instead of correcting it, you keep sending other people on that burning bus. That's not right. Even Malcolm X, even Martin Luther King said he was sending people in the burning house when he figured out he was wrong of his tactic. And I'm telling y'all now, if you're a Moorish American on here, you can't nationalize nobody. You're not no foreign national. Do not be driving around without no license and no insurance, because I wouldn't let my grandma or my kids get into the car with you. And then if a big semi hits somebody, you're going to try to use the same laws to defend you that you say you don't abide by. Like, that's asinine. And we don't do that. We're not here to overthrow no government, none of that. So if you want to learn the right way and navigate the right way and be a part of something that's real, be right here. And this is what I tell people. So with that being said, man, thank y'all for your time. Thank you for tuning in with me. My movies here, they chilling, they relaxing, we ate good. Do anybody got anything they want to share? Probably not. But thank everyone on TikTok. Please support. Check out our Temple and School page on YouTube at the Burning Bush Tabernacle Science Temple and School. Send me an email. Anybody that send donations, I give you literature. And y'all gonna see us get our brick and mortar again, and we're gonna do right by people. We're gonna save lives. We're gonna save women, children. We're gonna deal with the right men. Because every man we don't have to deal with, we gotta deal with the right men that's operating in their higher self, not wearing a face as a court jester, being a hustler, trying to scam people. That's not what we about. So once again, thank y'all, man, for y'all time. And anything y'all need, hit your boy up. If you're more, you don't have a fez, I sell them. If you buy a fez from me, I'll give you a turban, and I'll show you how to wrap your turban. Take that little cap off. You know, the cap would, and I'm not joking, because I used to wear them in my early stages when I didn't know how to wrap my turban. That's okay. But I used to wrap some under it and then make it look big. But we don't need those type of caps. Let's wrap our turban. If you don't know how wrapping your turban is a part of your culture, it's a part of meditation and contemplation. And when you start wrapping your turban, it's an art, it's a skill. And if you don't know how to do it, come learn. If you don't have a fez, come with your brother. If you don't have anything that represents you, I'll have it all. We don't have to go to Amazon. You can come right here and I give gifts. So hit me up. Anything y'all need, I love y'all. Thank you for your time and your day. We doing our Moorish American prayer, and we out of here. Allah, Father of the universe, Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is our protector, our God, and our salvation. By night and by day, through his holy prophet, Ali, Shalom Alaikum, Ayah, peace, 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 El Rahman, Ya Muhammad, Ashe, peace, 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 and amen. Love y'all, man. Peace. Lamar, take us out. You're in the way, man.
I'm a spirit speaking, truth seeking, heart reaching, knowledge leaking, seeds sowing, harvest reaping, man of meager meaning. I have yet to leave, I'm still breathing. To quit, I have no reason. I mean, I'm asleep, but I be trying to live my dream. I cannot even act if it's all easy. Either you gon' do it or you don't really. It ain't no in between. Baby, you can ask the sun, it's an everyday theme. Consistency in your routine is how you bring reality. Working like a slave, that's how I made this masterpiece. Living like a god, I lay at night,